Well, let's see here. You got this long stretch of games coming up, and we're hoping that the injury news doesn't continue to pile up. Do we have an update on Cody Bellinger and his battle against the wall?
Yeah, unfortunately, we did a CT scan this afternoon or this morning and revealed fracture in Cody's right rib. So we're going to put him on the injured list, and kind of unknown yet in terms of like when he'll return. But obviously, tough news.
Man, I mean, you starting to feel snake bit by the start of this season?
No, I mean, you just these things happen, and you just process it and move on and move to the next thing you got to do. There's nothing, we can't. This is a freak injury. There's no reason to feel snake bit. You just move on.
So what's the corresponding move?
Pete Crow-Armstrong's been called up, and he's on his way here.
Okay.
Wow, this is big stuff. A lot of people excited for Pete. That's for sure. But back to Cody for a second. He stayed in the game. Said he didn't feel it at first. That's a weird one to grow into something that severe. Is he just that strong, or is this one of those funky injuries that can grow in that way over the course of a night?
Well, I mean, anytime these things happen, like there's an adrenaline thing at first, and I think it's kind of normal actually that as it maybe went on a little longer that it started to get a little worse. So he's actually dealt with something like this before. So we'll just kind of progress and see when he's symptom free, and then start to move some baseball activities forward.
You've talked about the balance of kind of development and playing time as Pete comes up. Is it important that he plays as much as possible, or is he just going to be a piece of what you do?
No, what's important is that we're going to put the best lineup out there every day, and if Pete's involved in that, then he'll be in there. If it's in a different role and maybe off the bench or play defense, then it'll be that. So we'll look at the matchups and figure out the best way to try to put together a starting nine and go from there.
I said snake bit, and I knew that was probably a dumb way to word it. The team strikes me as being very resilient, and maybe it's just you have no choice. There's a game the next day. You have to keep playing. But in your experience, is that a trait or a learned trait of a team, the ability to face adversity, not hang your head, and keep playing good ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think you realize that to be at your best, you have to, that has to be your behavior, and that's from an individual basis and kind of from a team standpoint. But in our game, the results come at you so fast that you just have to continue to turn the page, and the game teaches you to do that. And sometimes we have to be reminded of it, but it does teach us that the best just continually turn the page. Of course, you learn from your experience and what happened in the game to try to improve your game and improve your performance. But you also know that if you don't turn the page, the emotional roller coaster that the game can put you on, hurts your performance. And that's, I think, we do have players in this team that are very good at that. And of course it helps.
You talked about it all spring, and especially at the end as the roster was trimmed down to size. Going to need everybody over the course of a year. But, here's Mervis up, PCA up, Wesneski's been up a couple times, Little down and up. Is this amount of roster churn, is it possible that it's a positive at this point in the year in terms of all these people getting a chance to come up and get a feel for what you'll need all season long?
Well, it's just, in my experience, it's how a season works. You need 50 to 60 players to get through a major league season. In our situation, we do have, we think, young players that are, especially that are going to get experience here. And when they get experience, that's going to help them, that they're going to be better players for that experience. And so that's been a positive. And I think we've seen that. I think Ben Brown's been a great example of that, of a player that just the experience is very much helping him. And so, hopefully as young players continue to get more experience, they improve as players. I think that's a big part of this.
We're talking to Craig Counsell, Parkins and Spiegel. on the score. Cody Bellinger, the CT scan reveals that he broke his rib, and Pete Crow-Armstrong is the corresponding roster move. There also was, of course, the news of Kyle Hendricks going on the IL. Do we believe that the problems with the command and the results are a result of the back problems?
Well, I don't think we know exactly what's going on. I mean, he obviously had some issues kind of before in his first couple starts as well. So I think they're not going to help, certainly. And it's going to be harder to fix issues when you're dealing with injuries, for sure. But, I mean, Kyle had kind of starts where he was symptom free. So it's hard to put it on all that.
You talked about when he gets through the injury, Craig, you and the rest of the org kind of putting your heads together and helping him pitch better, essentially, have better results. What's it about, you think? Is it about kind of the velocity discrepancy between his changeups and his fastball? Is it about the pitch shapes? Do you have any idea what kind of stuff in a general sense you'll be looking at?
Kyle is such a unique pitcher that I think it sometimes makes it harder to address kind of when things go wrong because we don't have, as many other examples of problems created and solutions created around the league, which is what, everybody goes to. But I think because he's unique, you got to go back to kind of what is he unique at? And he's unique at, an ability to command the baseball is truly what he's unique at. And that means that trait has to remain at the same level that it's always been at. So I think that's probably number one. Now how do we get there? I think that's kind of the harder question to answer.
Do you have any theories?
Well, I mean, it's, in the end of this, it's Kyle executing his delivery. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's really, we can have delivery cues, and then it's Kyle going out and executing the delivery.
Man, that has always seemed to be his kind of superhero trait, is like the repeatable mechanics. I think of it when I'm playing bags, Craig. Like I think of it when I'm playing cornhole. Like, all right, that's
a good comparison.
Well, I think it always has been, right, Danny? It's like I want to be the Kyle Hendricks of bags. I want to approach exactly the same way, and like he's always been able to do that. Does that get harder as you get older and your body goes through more?
Well, I think you'd be a better example of that than Kyle, then, wouldn't you? You'd be able to tell us that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, it's a good point.
Yeah, can you tell Craig, please, how you get the repeatable mechanics? This would be good.
It's funny, Craig. I've started
as you get older. Yeah,
I've started going from the stretch when I do bags. I've not done the full windup for the most part. I'm limiting my steps. Is that why some pitchers are doing that? You think to mirror me in bags?
I can tell you, I have no idea what you're talking about here. I have no idea about the mechanics of a bag's delivery.
Okay. All right.
So you've lost me a little bit.
Okay. I understand. Well, he's just, how can you get him physically back to repeating that delivery? It's got to be such a difficult thing when he's so good at it to begin with that it's lost. It's got to be crazy difficult.
Well, I mean, this is sports. I mean, this is like it's how you get really good at something too. So it's in there and it's solvable. But this is the uniqueness of sports, and he's mastered a movement. And it's certainly not that far from being there. And it's not like it's totally disappeared. It just needs to be there, more consistently. And you work at it, you repeat it, you think about it, you practice it. And that's how you get back there.
Once upon a time in this town, about Dexter Fowler, the phrase was, you go, we go. And it was about him as the leadoff hitter. And I know Nico leads off for you sometimes, but Jameson Taillon said that about Nico Hoerner recently. I know you said on this show and many other places when he was struggling, he'll be fine, he's too good not to, and we all obviously agreed with that, and now he's hitting the cover off the ball. Is there something to that specifically with Nico's game in your mind? As he goes, so goes the Cubs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little cliche, frankly. I think the leadoff hitter sometimes has a little bit of an outsized kind of how you feel about your offense. just because he's the guy you see the most, and he's the guy that starts the game. But offenses work because they have a lot of tough outs in them. They have a lot of guys who don't make outs or who hit the ball over the fence or are really tough to whatever it is. Have good offensive traits. And baseball, one player can never be the sole guy to do it. It's really difficult. So, we're going to score runs when we get contributions from a lot of different guys. And I think overall, it's a strength of this offense is that we have gotten contributions from a bunch of different guys at different times in the year.
Nico told us about the switch or the swing decision matrix or whatever he called it, the swing decision data to look at to really kind of dissect what his swing choices are. And then he goes out and has a big hit on the third highest ball that a Cub has ever hit since 2015. He fouls one off that's like a foot off the inside of the plate. He's got a little Kirby Puckett or Vlad Guerrero Sr. in terms of just see ball, hit ball in it, doesn't he? Is that something you want to allow in him, even as he's trying to make better choices?
Yeah, I mean, Nico's great trait is that he has an ability to make contact with pitches. And so that sometimes means, pitches out of the zone, right? I think Nico's goal still is always going to be like, don't swing at those pitches out of the zone. That's the every hitter's goal, right? Because it's a ball. But he does have an ability to make contact, and that's you get rewarded for that. That's a good trait as well. So, it's not something it's you don't want to take away one, but of course, Nico's still trying not to swing at balls. I think he would tell you that for sure.
So Matt Mervis hit $167 in 27 games last year, but boy, he's looked better than that. And, obviously in the minors and just in general, he seems like a good hitter. What do you hope is different for him this time around?
Yeah, I mean, Matt had a big league call up. It didn't go well. You learn from that experience. You continue to get better. He's performed again in AAA. And, this is his next opportunity. Now, is it going to be a full year opportunity? Probably not. Probably at some point if we can get healthy that we'd run out of space. But, right now, Matt was the selection to kind of give us some little more balance from a left-handed hitter standpoint. And he's going to get an opportunity and to help the club win some games over the next couple of weeks.
Does Pete being here affect how long Matt might be able to stay?
I would say no.
Okay. So maybe Matt gets a look at first.
I mean, Pete and Matt here are here, essentially because we've got some injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly why they're. I was actually curious about Pete, because to Speaks' quote too, didn't have the greatest debut last year, crazy talented, matters a ton to the organization, and you said you're not going to play him every day. It's not about development; it's about winning. So, what do you see in him? Where is his value to the team right now, other than just he's here because of injury?
Well, there's no question. Pete's a very talented defender, and it always feels like that. They say defense doesn't go in slumps.
Right.
Their speed doesn't go in slumps. Things like those are traits that kind of give players great floors, I say. And so, we're putting a good. If when Pete's in the lineup, we know we're getting a good defender. And that's an important part of it, and that's going to help you win games.
So many different closer profiles in our past baseball lives, Craig, whether it's Trevor Hoffman in a changeup or Doug Jones going back longer or whatever. Could it even be an option in the league right now to have somebody who throws off speed, or do you have to find, that great dominant swing and miss with velocity to be a closer in the modern game?
You got to get people out. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, and the pitchers who are really good at getting guys out, however they do it, are the guys that end up at the back of the game. So, it's as simple as that. There's pitchers kind of solve the getting a hitter out problem, in a lot of different ways. And it's based on kind of what they're good at and what their pitch characteristics are. And, I think certainly we're in an age where velocity is, taking a jump and is king, and vast majority of the guys you're going to see back there are very hard throwers. But it's not always the case. Kenley Jansen's closing games. He's not throwing, he's a 90, throwing 92, 93 at this point. So it's not every single closer, but it's certainly the most of them.
Wondering when or if Adbert gets another shot at doing that down the road here.
Well, it's just getting people out. We need Adbert to get hitters out, and how we get 27 outs. If Adbert gets outs in the 3 outs in the 7th or 3 outs in the 9th, like, to me, it's just he got 3 outs for us in that 27. And so I think our goal is to, we want Adbert to have confidence, and I think, there's nothing really bad has happened. He's given up some badly timed home runs that have, that make you feel real bad, but he's still not pitching really poorly. But it does shake your confidence. It shakes your confidence, no question. And we do have to do some work to get that back.
Craig, have you ever seen a manager get tossed for not saying a word, like what happened to Aaron Boone?
No, I haven't. I think there was clearly a mistake made there, which happens.
Yeah, that I'm always advocating for more crowd mics and more stuff like that for the fans, but I was like, oof, that one was that might have been a downside for some crowd mics and some live shots.
Yeah, that's unfortunate at that point in the game, and feels like maybe that should be something that's reversible, or we could change our mind on that one.
Have you ever thought to yourself, trust tree here, have you ever thought to yourself, you know what, I ought to get thrown out tonight, spark my team? You ever done that move, Craig?
No.
Okay. All right.
No.
All right,
not before the game.
Sure. Fourth, fifth inning, maybe. Like, I don't want to watch the rest of this. Perhaps I want to go to the dog track. That's what they say. Don Zimmer used to do. He wanted to go to the dog track. Might as well get thrown out. Yeah. But Craig, it's an interesting thing to have all these people playing for it. Do any of them need you to see an angry side of you?
No, you're just look. We're around each other every single day. Certainly, my job is to help them and to put the organization in a good spot. But you got to do it being yourself. And if that means angry, that means angry. Whatever that means. But you got to do it being yourself.
All right, well, we'll send video of you of Spiegs playing bags so that you can share it with Kyle Hendricks. And yeah,
I know you're not a pitching guy or a bags mechanics guy, but I still think your input would be excellent.
Yeah, but
sure, we could have Tommy Hotovy break down the mechanics, maybe.
I sent Jed the video of me when I threw out the first pitch at Wrigley.
You seen that, Craig? That's a doozy.
Yeah, he said, I've seen more elbow flexibility in literally everyone else in his life. So... If you want,
I'm. Well, I don't know. I don't know how you might be a world-class bags player. I'm not sure what I'm getting into here.
All right, Craig. We apologize for the nonsense. We will talk to you in 2 weeks. Thank you, sir.
All right, you got it. See you.
Thanks, Craig.
That's Craig Counsell, manager of the Cubs,
Woo.
and
it's a fractured rib for Cody Bellinger is your lead there, folks, and Pete Crow-Armstrong is here.
Yeah, that would be the news that came out of that for sure. Man, this team. Like, he is so process-based and serious and next game and all of that, of course, he is going to, not say that they're snake bit and, the resiliency thing and all of that, sure, because he has no choice.
He's got to stay level.
But, yeah, right, and that's a trait of his. That's it's something that everyone's talked about with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, man, just think about who we're talking about.
Talking about Steele and Seiya and Bellinger. That's 1, 2, and 3.
Steele on opening day. Mm-hmm. Seiya, your $100 million guy was your best offensive hitter, and Bellinger, your most expensive average annual value player, who's top 10 MVP guy.
Yep.
And Hendricks, crazy struggles, Merriweather injury, and to still be
and you don't have a closer.
Right, and
you don't have a closer.
Four blown saves by
Adbert Alzolay. Hector Neris has been marginal.
And they're still 14-9.
It's remarkable.
It is a crazy thing.
If they get through these first 2 months and find themselves at 500 with all of these injuries and everything, then Cub fans should actually still feel pretty darn good about things. 60 games, they're still around 500. You should still feel pretty good. You keep going to the resiliency thing, and you're right in terms of what you see and what they have to believe about themselves. And I don't know that anyone will give you the clean yes that you might want, but
I thought
I
thought Nico's answer on it actually on Tuesday was really interesting.
Yeah, Nico talked about everything they went through last year together. Yeah, same batch of people,
and that it's the same batch of people that they went through a ton at the end of last year.
They sure did.
It didn't go very well in the ultimate results, but that same group of people largely is back, and therefore that might help them weather the storm this time. Like that, without completely signing off on my theory.
Yeah.
And Craig is obviously not the type of person who is going to take credit for that. We know him well enough to know that. But he's steady. Everybody says that about him. So there's something there with this makeup. I don't know how much credit he gets, how much credit the continuity gets, how much credit just the nature of the sport gets, but there is something to what I will call resilience. If you want to put it at a different word, we can talk about it, but there's something to this team being 14-9.
This becomes a new daily thing to look at every single pregame. Is Pete Crow-Armstrong in the lineup? He just said he just wants his best 9 out there. How often will that be Pete playing center field, either hitting at the top or hitting at the bottom as a secondary leadoff guy with speed? It's going to be very interesting to watch how this is going to play out.
Well, we got a big day today. It just got bigger with the news.